And it all comes down to this. The College World Series Finals is officially set as Tennessee and Texas A&M will do battle. Someone is going to win their first national championship in program history. The best-of-3 series set to go this weekend, and we're breaking it all down, previewing, predicting everything, another all-SEC final in store. Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Phillips. He's Harrison Fant. We are SEC Unfiltered. Make sure, guys, you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website for all of your College World Series coverage over at SECUnfiltered.com. And, of course, guys, check out our friends over at MYBOOKIE, who actually helped send us out to Omaha, Nebraska, as our friend Harrison is still boots on the ground right now there at Charles Schwab Field. MyBookie.ag, promo code SECU to get your special welcome offer today to get your first deposit match up to $1,000. And yes, there will be lines, there will be spreads, there will be totals on all the College World Series games this weekend. Yours truly sitting right now at 5-3 overall. Not bad, but we're going to try to do even better this weekend. So MyBookie.ag, promo code SECU. Check out those guys to get your special welcome offer today. Like I mentioned, joined by my partner in crime all season long. We were out in Omaha together. And again, like I mentioned, he's still out there preparing to take in all the action as Tennessee and Texas A&M do battle. Harrison Fant. Harrison, what's going on, my man? Appreciate you taking the time. How's Omaha treating you on the off day as we speak right now?
Yeah, Chris, it's nice to have an off day. I mean, we were hoping to have one of the, if necessary games just to have a little more excitement and thrill. But it's awesome to be here in Omaha and get to experience the College World Series. Our first one, you and I, together, but in general too. And it's just been an unbelievable atmosphere. The fans been great. It's really hot, surprisingly, in Nebraska. I mean, it's really humid too. It kind of feels like the South, but that was kind of the more unexpected thing for me so far. But I mean, the fans have been incredible. The atmosphere, the people I've met here and connected with, it's been an unbelievable experience. And the baseball has been anything but dull. So.
And Harrison, like you mentioned, it was our first College World Series experience. And when the dust settles early next week, you and I are going to get back together. We're going to talk about this entire College World Series experience, reflect on everything. But right now, we're going to zero in, of course, on this College World Series finals and give you guys that full preview and prediction and breakdown of everything. And like you mentioned, Harrison, there's no if necessary games on Thursday, on Friday. That's because, well, Tennessee and Texas A&M took care of their business, both going 3-0 in Omaha. Tennessee beating Florida State, North Carolina, and Florida State again. Meanwhile, Texas A&M beating the Florida Gators, Kentucky, and Florida yet again. Let's start with Tennessee, though, Harrison, as we break this down and kind of break down how these teams got here, because I don't think we're surprised at what the final is, but it is very interesting, two different paths, because one of these teams beat 3 ACC teams, the other beat 3 SEC teams. Starting with Tennessee, they had that thrilling 12-11 win over Florida State, then beat North Carolina 6-1, who I thought was a sleeper pick to win the entire thing, then beat Florida State again 7-2. Harrison, from what you've seen from Tennessee, the journey, again, number 1 overall national seed, we're not necessarily surprised they're here, but what stood out to you most about Tennessee's journey to get to the College World Series finals?
Yeah, Chris, I mean, Tennessee's been a powerhouse all year. It started an incredible game that came down to a wire, down to a controversial play with Florida State, and just, I'll let the fans have their own decision on how that, if it was a check swing or not. But I mean, it's just been kind of what their forte's been all year. Strong on both sides of the ball and relentless and just clutch is how it felt. I mean, just the leadership from Tony Vitello all the way down 1 through 9 in the lineup, the pitching, the bullpen. It's been a full team effort, and just how deep they've been all year is what we've seen here in Omaha. I mean, playing against the best talent too. You're playing against powerhouse schools with elite programs that have elite players up and down their lineup. So they've gone toe to toe with the best of the best here in Omaha, and they've come out on top every single game they've played.
You know what's really stood out to me too, Harrison, is that, and you and I talked about this, it was so interesting, is that Tennessee was not getting the love that they probably deserved and probably should have because of the whole number 1 seed curse thing. And I think it made it very easy, Harrison, to pick someone else. Like if Tennessee had been the 2 seed, I think you and I could agree. I think everyone would have been picking this Tennessee team to win it all. But because of that, they were doubted, that people were skeptical. And then you get that game 1 against Florida State where it's really sloppy early. We saw some uncharacteristic errors on both sides, really, both Tennessee and FSU. and you come down to that final inning, and it could have been very easy, I think, Harrison, for the wheels to start turning and doubt creeping in. Oh, my God, we're the number 1 seed, and maybe they were right. There's a curse. There's this and that. And for that team to have the resiliency to score, 4 runs, I think, in the 9th inning. They had 5 straight 2-out hits, and they walked that thing off. I just think, Harrison, it showed like a different level of mental toughness and resiliency. And that team sort of showing, we know what all the naysayers are saying. We know what history says. We don't give a damn. We know how good we are. We're going to go out and win anyways. That, to me, is what's been really impressive about what the Vols have done to this point.
Yeah, Chris, and it starts with the lineup that you said, just how clutch they've been up and down. And you can't go without mentioning the first guy in their lineup, Christian Moore, who did something historic here in his first game in Omaha this year. And just, he hit for the second ever cycle in a men's College World Series game. And he did it with a triple, double, single, and then capped off the home run. He's the second player ever to hit for the cycle in a game here in the men's College World Series after Jerry Kendall in 1956 did it for Minnesota. So, I mean, a historic feat for him. And then you have Blake Burke, who has that questionable check swing, and it just keeps it alive, stays alive. And then Dylan Dryling walks it off. Just something that we've seen all year. Just any one of those guys in the Tennessee Volunteer line can be clutch and have that big blow that just wins the game, puts them over top. And they showed that here against Florida State in game 1. I mean, it's just relentless, like I said, this Tennessee team.
And I think the other big thing we've seen, Heberson, to this point, I think most noteworthy for Tennessee, Drew Beam returning to form. I mean, for you and I, we talked about that was the key player sort of for Tennessee going in this thing, that if he was at his best, the Vols were going to have a really, really good shot to be at this point. That was vintage Drew Beam we saw. I mean, you knew you can't keep a good man down for long, and he had been struggling lately. We had a pretty good feeling he was going to bounce back, and I mean, that was as electric as we've seen Drew Beam in quite a while.
Yeah, Chris, and to do it against a club like Carolina, this North Carolina team has been, it feels like cardiac Tar Heels all year. You know, Chapel Thrill, just the lineup, the clutches that they've had. To do it on this stage against that team is just kind of the Drew Beam we've expected all year. And I talked to him post game in an interview that is out on SEC Filter on our social platforms, of how just kind of his mindset going into it. Right, he's leaned on the veteran guys that have been here before. You know, it's the same 60 feet 6 inches is what I said with him that he quoted. You know, it's the same game we played since we were 10. It's just a different venue. And I asked about that, and because he's one of those guys who's pitched on this stage before, and said just leading in and kind of teaching that and kind of help leading and guiding the younger guys. And he was able to do that, and he set the tone on the mound. I mean, 5 innings, a 1 earned ball, 7 Ks, 2 walks, and 4 hits. I mean, fastball is electric. He was jumping out of his hand 94, 95 with run. The curveball was great. The changeup was there too in the low 80s, both of them, and just did a really, really phenomenal job of keeping a strong North Carolina team off balance. And then you got Kirby Cannell coming behind him, doing what he's done best all year, just coming out of the pen. I think he has the most appearances of any pitcher of that bullpen in college baseball. It feels like, at least, just how often they go to him and how consistently good he is when he does it, Chris. It's awesome to see.
I think the thing, and to your point, Harrison, you're absolutely correct. I think Kirby Cannell, Nate Snead back in, they're going to be huge. Yet again, certainly Drew Beam, he's going to be massive. I'd assume he'd probably pitch game 2 in this series. You know, the other thing too, Harrison, lastly, closing out on Tennessee, that has surprised me, not because I didn't think they were capable of it, but just from the standpoint of, like, it's not the flashiest or the sexiest thing to talk about. That's the defense, right? We love to talk about hitting and pitching, but the defense for Tennessee, and I know it started sloppy, but you know, people are making the joke right now that 70% of the earth's covered by water. The other 30% is covered by whoever's playing center field for Tennessee. I mean, they've made some crazy, crazy plays in the field. And I mean, when you get into a series like this where every little thing matters, I feel like having that defense they've got behind behind whoever's on the bump, that's a huge, huge piece to this thing.
Yeah, Chris. And I've talked to Tony Vitello after the game. We had an interview with him that's out on our platforms as well. And just the kind of culture he's built at Tennessee and the guys that he has, what this program has really, really developed into. I mean, since he's gotten there, and just Tennessee feels like a baseball school now. Just the fans, the support they have, the consistent level of success of, you know, making deep postseason runs, going to Omaha several times since he's been there. And, you know, the culture they have there is just such passionate guys that are so close. And, you know, guys that want to lay it all out on the line, guys that want to run through a brick wall, run through a wall for each other. And we had 2 guys for Tennessee do that, figuratively and literally, put their bodies on the line, run through a wall for their teammate, and come up with a catch at the end of the day. It was unbelievable. Just 2 of the best catches we've seen now, I think, all season. I mean, I don't think it's going to compare to Cam Cannarella's catch that we saw in the Supers. But I mean, Hunter Inslee, he left his eye black on the wall that we saw, and it was just unbelievable. The defense has stepped up as well.
So, Harrison, let's shift gears and talk Texas A&M because, again, they also go 3-0 through the College World Series. They're, 8-0, I think, through the postseason. They haven't lost a game
They have
yet.
not lost.
Have not lost since the regionals started. So, Texas A&M's on a heater, of course. Again, 3-0 in Omaha, though, beating Florida, Kentucky, and then Florida again. But, again, it's been a little bit different, Harrison, because this is a team a little bit shorthanded. They've been dealing with some injuries, really banged up. Jace Lavalette, even in the College World Series, dealing with a hamstring, and they just keep finding ways to win. And the way specifically, Harrison, they're doing it is on the mound. Max Weiner, give him the lifetime contract extension. They've given up 3 earned runs in 3 games in Omaha, and I think 37 strikeouts to go along with it. Just talk about Texas A&M again. 3 convincing wins, I'll say. That game against Florida was close. That was the 10-15 start, by the way, when we were there at Charles Schwab Field. That didn't get over till about 1:40 local time. But either way, what you've seen from A&M to this point and to get them to this point.
Chris, the thing with A&M that we've been talking about all year is the pitching staff. The absolute, stock risen skyrocket of a turnaround that this A&M staff has had, guided by Max Weiner, who is one of the best pitching coaches in the country, especially to do this in 1 year with guys he, started working with less than a year ago when he got on campus here. It's just unbelievable. They set a program single season strikeout record against Florida in this game to go to the championship at over 267, I believe is what the record was. Unbelievable. And then you have Justin Lampkin, who has had his struggles of late, in this season, in the postseason, step up twice. I mean, he pitched against Florida both times, a short start in the first one, did his job. Then he comes back and pitches again against Florida to knock them out. And he's lights out. I mean, he recorded the most strikeouts by an A&M pitcher in the Men's College World Series in their program history. I mean, a statement right there. I mean, how can we go without saying Ryan Prager going over 6 innings of no-hit baseball? I mean, maybe one of his best outings we've seen all year, Chris. And to do it on this stage, do it when this team needs it the most, unbelievable. I mean, he wasn't even on the strikeouts because he's been a big strikeout guy all year. He only had 4 strikeouts. To do it just when we talked to Max Weiner after the game, he said, he didn't have everything really working for him, or everything wasn't really kind of coming out of the hand how he wanted to, but he was just competing. He was, being in the zone, letting his defense work for him. We saw a lot of great defensive plays from Gavin RHOBACK and others in the field. Help his pitcher out. Let your defense work for you. Pitchers love that. Keeps the pitch count down. You're not having to, effort to go deep in these counts, as well. And just, that's what the defense is there for. I mean, the strikeouts are awesome. He goes, strikeouts are, I don't think strikeouts are cool or not cool. I mean, they're great, but outs are awesome, and just the way that he kind of talks with his pitching staff and how deep they are. I mean, they see, he went out there, we saw to talk with Ryan Prager after giving up his first hit, and they're just laughing. It's hey, he goes, it's the same way, a 12-year-old plays on a baseball field. We laugh. We're going to laugh. He's 21 now. We're going to laugh, have a good time. And he just executed pitches, executed. And that's what this whole pitching staff has done. I mean, you go to the bullpen, you go Chris Cortez, someone that has probably one of, if not the best stuff in the game out of the bullpen, just 100-mile-an-hour sinkers and 90-mile-an-hour off speed. I mean, it's good luck hitters, and just he in his first outing was so sharp, and all his velo is up on all his pitches from last year. And the second outing didn't really have it. Sloss runs out there mid-count, makes a pitching change. You go to your stopper of the year. You go to the stopper of the year in the nation, Evan Oschenbeck, and he slams the door. I mean, and then you have Josh Stewart too. I mean, Max has told us he's a superstar several times. I mean, you have so many superstars. It's just the depth of elite pitching they have at A&M is unlike any other country, and they've put that on full display here at the College World Series.
Yeah, Harrison, I want to echo, too, what you said. Harrison's done a great job with all these conversations. Max Weiner, Ryan Prager, they're all over our socials, so check them out. It's been really, really fun and enlightening to hear what those guys have to say. And like you mentioned, the turnaround that Max Weiner has led with that pitching staff. I mean, if you don't recall, guys, it's night and day from last year. I think they had a 7 ERA in the 2023 season, so it's hard to believe this group could ever be at that. But, again, you get the right voice in there in Max Weiner, and you see what can happen. I think, Harrison, too, the other thing that's jumped out to me, and it's been, again, no team gets to this point. You don't get to the College World Series finals without having a great culture and camaraderie and a brotherhood, whatever title you want to throw on it. You don't get there without having a tight-knit group, and I think you've seen that with Braden Montgomery in the dugout, and he's cheering on the team. And I know you've talked to him, other have as well. And it's like there's this strong support system where it's pass the baton, next man up. We don't really care who gets the glory. And I mean, I think you're seeing that guys like Caden Sorrell, Ali Camarillo, Caden Kent. These guys are stepping up. Maybe they're not household names. We know about the Lavalettes. We know about the Grahovics, right? Jackson Appel, the catcher, Hayden Schott, another one. It's one of those teams where there's a different hero every night, Harrison. And again, especially when you're dealing with injuries and you're banged up, you have to have that this time of year, and Texas A&M has found that.
Yeah, Chris, and you brought up the conversation with Ryan Prager. I mean, I talked to him after pressers after the game, and he was on the stage in 2022 for A&M. He had 2 appearances, almost 3 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 3 strikeouts in the loss that ended their season against Oklahoma here in the College World Series in 2022. And I asked him about that and just what did he learn from that? What did he take away from that? And what has made him, better? And how did it help him this year? I mean, he almost throws through 7 no-hit innings. He goes, just was really the confidence and, being on the stage before and kind of letting it kind of develop and how he kind of approached what he does and how he does his work. And just, having that back in mind, similar to what Drew Beam's experience was, relying on being here, not letting the stage get too big, taking care of the little moments is what Ryan talked about, and just execution. And he did that.
So, Harrison, as we move on, and again, we're focused on this series, which will take place this weekend. It's for all the marbles, the national championship. Someone, Harrison, who has never won a national title before is going to be hoisting that trophy. A&M's never even been to the finals in Tennessee. I thought it was their first time. Who can forget that classic back in 1951? Vols fans were sure to enlighten me. It's their second time, not their first time. I do apologize. Either way,
and it's A&M's first time in one of the big 3 to play for a national championship.
Since 1940. It's been a long time for the Aggies. So there's excitement on both sides. Harrison, we both know. We saw it already. The crowds are going to be electric. I mean, Texas A&M games, it felt like Bluebell Park. Tennessee fans have been all over the place. Rocky Top blaring everywhere. Charles Schwab Field is going to be an electric factory. And, guys, you didn't realize it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday if necessary. 6 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 6 o'clock local first pitches. Those are Central Time. So as we look at this series, Harrison, let's talk key player for each team. And we're going to pick one. And we'll start with the Tennessee Vols. When you look at Tennessee, and there's a number of directions you can go, there's some low-hanging fruit, and we've done this all throughout the regional, the super regional, the College World Series breakdowns we've done. But when you look at this series specifically, and I know I joked with you before we went on, it's kind of like we're talking about an SEC weekend, kind of like we did all year, right? I mean, we just got a 3-game series, best 2 of 3. But when you look at the key players for each team, we'll start with Tennessee. Who is the guy you zero in on as the guy that, if this guy has a big weekend, pretty good chance Tennessee's going to be hoisting that trophy at weekend's end?
Yeah, so we're going to do just one player or one offensive and one kind of pitcher?
We can go one offense, one pitcher. Let's go one offense.
Okay, I like that a lot better. I was hoping
Yeah.
so. With that being said, in the lineup, it's got to be for me, Christian Moore. I mean, I know you can say it's a cop-out, that's just like a default, easy one to pick, but he sets the tone for the game. And he does on the defense. We've seen him make insane plays up the middle, just running over to second, flipping it, running away, and making him insane outs. Just the range he has, the athletic ability he has. But on the offense, it all revolves around him. He's getting on base, single, double, triples, home run, whatever it is. The power he has is the core of this offense. He doesn't steal a lot of bags. It's funny because I think most of the season, Blake Burke, the first baseman, led the Tennessee Volunteers in stolen bases. That's just a funny kind of note, but he sets the tone. And when he's on base, you can't pitch around him because then you got to pitch through the whole lineup of Tennessee, which is just they are the first team, I believe, to have 5 guys of 20-plus home runs or more. It's unbelievably how deep and strong they are. I mean, it's crazy. But for me, it's Christian Moore. Just SEMO, I mean, I'll say it here. He's the best second baseman in the country. He should have been first-team All-American.
Easily.
No question. Yeah. You can't convince me otherwise. If you've seen him play statistically too, there's no question for me. I mean, how good he's been every series all year long. For me, it's Christian Moore.
And who's the pitcher you're going with? I'll let you start with both. Who's the pitcher you're going with for Tennessee, that impact guy that is going to dictate this series?
That's an easy answer for me. It's Drew Beam. Drew Beam replicating what he did in his last outing. If he can do that again against an A&M lineup as a second starter, he's going to have an unbelievable. It's going to give him so much more confidence. He's going to give this team confidence, and they're going to go out and maybe have a chance to win that game too, if they win game one and take it in two, because you don't want to go to three. Neither team does, obviously, but Drew Beam having another dominant starter, very strong start even for the Tennessee Volunteers, is going to set them up perfectly to win that game and potentially win this national championship. Who are your picks?
So, Harrison, my key players for Tennessee offensively, I'm going to go Blake Burke. And the reason is, I'm curious to see how Texas A&M pitches Christian Moore. I don't think you can walk him, right? I made the joke that he's reaching Jack Caglione status where they're going to start intentionally walking him. I don't think realistically you can do that, but there's got to be a mindset of we cannot let this guy beat us. Like, that's kind of we cannot let him solely. We've seen what he can do. He's hit for the cycle, right? Like, you're very, very well aware of his accomplishments. I think Burke hitting behind him, I think that means he's going to come up a lot, and there's going to be a guy on base, and there's going to be guys in position to score. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities to do damage. I'm also taking Blake Burke because, of course, the low-hanging fruit is Christian Moore, and you already took him, so what's the fun in that? But I think Blake Burke, again, is another one of those big boppers for them. And if I didn't say Blake Burke, I'd go Billy Amick, who's probably right behind him. But I'm going to stick with Burke. I also think, too, I know we're talking offensively, but I think in the field as well, playing first base, listen, defense is important. It's the little things. There's probably going to be some throws in the dirt. There may be some plays over there at first base you got to make. That's very important, right? We're not talking about it until it's an issue. And Blake Burke was very, very good all throughout the College World Series and this season as well. And he's improved his defense a lot. So I think Burke is a key player for them. And on the mound, Harrison, I'm going to go back into the bullpen. I'm going to go Nate Snead. I think this is a guy you're going to see multiple times. We all know about Texas A&M's bullpen. We've been praising them. Nate Snead is a guy, Harrison, he's got 10 wins on the season. So he has coming in crunch time. He's either held the rope when things were tied or held it when it's close or whatever it might be. And he's been the beneficiary of gaining wins because of that. So I think Nate Snead is a guy back into the bullpen. I think that is going to be critically important with what they have. You mentioned A&M with Aschenbeck and Cortez and all. So I think Nate Snead, he's got to hold his own, go toe-to-toe with those guys. So those two guys.
I love the pick, Chris. I love it. And to talk more about Blake Burke briefly, we've seen the defensive plays he's made. I mean, the scoops at first, the overthrows, he's running it down, throws the guy out at second several times. The pickoffs from the pitcher, from Kirby Cannell, or even back picks from Cal Stark. His defensive glove and arm is a huge piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a huge piece of Tennessee's success.
Nate Snead, great pick too.
Hey, we're going to see him a lot. I think we're going to see him a lot. Now let's talk Texas A&M, Harrison. Key player for Texas A&M for you, one pitcher, one hitter. Who are you going with?
See, this one is where I think you get a little more differentiate. You can go several routes. You can support so many things like you could Tennessee. If I got to go bats-wise, a key player has got to be Jace Lavalette. And yes, you can say that's low-hanging fruit, but I think it's a lot predicated on my pick on his health and his hamstring. He's playing the best he can. I mean, we saw a ball last game against Florida in right field that I think if he's 100% healthy, he makes that routinely almost. I mean, he's got a good arm in the outfield. He's not, using it as much just because of, I think, his hamstring limiting him a little bit, and it's going to limit him. Hopefully he's close to, if not 100%, during this championship series. So, I mean, he's playing through a lot of pain. He's a warrior. He's laying it all out for his team on the line, which all these guys are. But I mean, he's got so much taped up that he's got basically an artificial hamstring with tape in there just to kind of support it. And so I think his health, because of Beaumont going down, one of the best players in the country, his health, if he's near 100% and playing well and playing what we've seen him do all year, is going to be a vital piece of this offense.
And who are you going with for pitcher? I'll let you knock out both first.
Yeah, so Chris, I mean, for me, I'm going back and forth. Yes, you can go starters. I think for me, this one's even harder because do I want to go starting pitching or do I want to go bullpen? It's for me.
It's easy to go bullpen here with those guys.
It's easy to go bullpen. I could sit here, Chris, and make a case for you. We could talk A&M bullpen all day. We're big fans of the arm farm and Max Wiener, what he's done. I want to go Justin Lampkin though. Just not a low-hanging fruit like the rest of my picks. It feels like I could go Chris Cortez and tell you why with pleasure. Same with Evan Aschenbeck, stopper of the year. But I think Justin Lampkin, just to be able to continue pitching how great he has been here on this stage, and if it's a short start or a long start, holding this Tennessee lineup at bay early in the game and, getting 3, 4, 5 innings because their bullpen's so deep and good and elite with just so many different arms and the arsenals that they have, Justin Lincoln, I think, is going to be kind of an X factor for me for A&M on the pitching side.
So, Harrison, when it comes to Texas A&M, my key player for the Aggies on the offensive side, we'll start with hitters, Gavin Grahovic. I think a guy that heated up in that last game, 2 for 4 with an RBI, had a walk in that game as well. I think that was a dude they were wanting to see come on again. That last game against Florida looked much more comfortable swinging the stick. I think he is a dude that, hey, Jay Slavalette, from talking to Texas A&M folks, he's going to play, Harrison. There's no question, but he's not 100%. And I think
exactly.
I think you're going to need somebody else to sort of pick up the slack. Whether it's it's Jack Bell, it's Appel, it's Hayden Schott. We can go down the list of guys. But I think Gavin Krahovic is most built to be a guy that can carry that lineup, or maybe just spark that lineup, I should say. So I'm going to go Gavin Grahovic at the very top of the lineup. One of the most talented players, I think, in this series.
Freshman of the year.
Yeah, freshman of the year. One of the most talented players in all of college baseball, truly. And then when it comes to
an awesome guy off the field, too. I mean, a lot of these guys are, but just great conversation with him.
Yeah, he's been great for us. I know he did the uniform sort of modeling for you, which is really, really cool. Some fantastic threads they've got at Texas A&M. When it goes to the bump, like you mentioned, Harrison, it's really, really easy to go with the bullpen. But I'm going to go same as you. I'm going to go starting pitching, but I'm going to go Ryan Prager, because when I look at this series, I think if Texas A&M is going to beat Tennessee, it's going to be because the front line starting pitching was elite, and that starts with Ryan Prager. And I think you got to take advantage in game one. I think Prager needs to build off that last start, go out there, spin a gem. It's going to be difficult against this Tennessee lineup, but it can be done. And also, by the way, Harrison, and I know it means nothing. I don't want people to think I'm putting a bunch of stock in this, but the last time Ryan Prager pitched against Tennessee was Hoover, and they roughed him up a little bit. So, I think it's an important start for him and important to get off on the right foot. And I think, again, if A&M's going to win this series, I think that front line starting pitching has to hold their own. Starts with Prager in game one.
Yeah, and Ryan Prager, I think it's one of those things he's matured throughout the season. He's not having to, rely, or he's not just dominating one, striking everyone out, getting 8, 10, 11 strikeouts a game. He's being able to keep guys off balance with his pitches, kind of dominate the corners and the edges and the bottoms of the zone, and get guys to get themselves out, which is really huge. And something that people I don't think, focus on as a pitcher. They think of, especially right now in the SEC on the college stage, just power arms with velocity and striking guys out. Ryan Prager is able to do that and do it confidently with how he's pitched on these big stages, like I said before, and get guys to get themselves out and let his defense work, like I said. I mean, same with Drew Beam. I think Ryan Prager's back. I really do. I think he's going to have a great outing. I think Drew Beam's back too. Just like I said, the experience of pitching here before, they're back. Now they're doing it again, the confidence they have, and just everything's kind of clicking for them. The stuff is always there. But I think the stuff is on for both of them right now. And AJ Causey is going to be another interesting. I thought maybe one of us would go AJ Causey, but it's just the frontline bullpen, or the frontline arms for both teams are incredibly good. It's best on best. I mean, and then the lineup is best on best as well. It's going to be one of the best series I think we've seen in a while in the finals.
Yeah, these are two complete teams. It's really hard to poke holes in either one of them. That being said, Harrison, let's move to keys to victory for each of these teams. And again, we will start with the Tennessee Volunteers. Harrison, I'll go first here since you went first with the key players. Key to victory for me for Tennessee, like we mentioned, these teams are complete top to bottom. They can field it. They can throw it. They can hit it. They can pitch. They can do everything. They've got great coaches. For me, for Tennessee, I'm going to go keep the composure. That's my key for Tennessee. Keep your composure. Keep your wits about you. The only time Tennessee has gotten in trouble, and if you think back to 2022, and I know the program has come a long way since then, but sometimes the emotions would start running a little high. Things would get out of sorts. If Tennessee shows up, and Harrison, you mentioned it a couple weeks ago, taking care of business. If you can come out there, be even keel, whatever happens, good or bad, stay even keel. That's what Tennessee did in game one. They fell down. They didn't get rattled. They didn't get shaky. They didn't let emotions run wild. They stayed the course, and it paid off. I think if Tennessee can keep the composure, no matter what happens on the mound, swinging the stick, I think Tennessee, they're going to have a great shot to win this because everything else takes care of itself, Harrison. The only thing I think that can disrupt Tennessee, this is taking nothing away from Texas A&M, but the only thing that can disrupt Tennessee is if they get in this dome piece right here and they start to get in their head and they start thinking about the fact that, man, if the whole narrative about, well, if we don't win it all, is the season a failure? Like that, if that thing starts spinning, those gears start going, I think that's where Tennessee can get messed up. And I'm certainly not saying that's going to happen, but that is my key for Tennessee. Simply keep the composure, play it as a normal weekend. Things should work out pretty well for you.
So does having that, subconscious, number one seed hasn't won it since 1999. You think that's part of that? Keep that composure. Don't let that narrative build up.
I think they've done a good job of putting that out of their mind. So what I'm saying is keep doing what you've been doing, but just don't change it up now, right? Like what you have done was good enough to get you here. What you can't think is we got to now do something different. Like we see teams do that. So I think for Tennessee, believe in what's gotten you to this point, continue to do it, and believe it's going to be good enough to get you to the final spot.
Yeah, and I think Tony Vitello, one of the best coaches in college baseball, will have those boys ready, have the mindsets of them ready, and on the right paths and on the right thought processes leading into the game and throughout the game, not letting things get worried about them. Oh, crap, like, we're getting in a hole here. I think the mindset for him with how he leads the guys before and during the game is one of the best in the country. So I really like that. For me, for Tennessee, I think it's not getting in a hole early. And when I say that, I think it's on the pitching side when you have Chris Stamos kind of opening up at the pin, whether it's 2/3 of an inning, or it's an inning, or it's an inning and a third, and then AJ Causey's having a rush, and the whole bullpen situation, he's going to come in and slam the door with guys on immediately. I think
I know you and I both have our opinions on the opener thing, so I agree with you 100%.
If Texas A&M can get them in a hole early in that situation when they're doing an opener, in that game one, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Tennessee, and I think it's going to be hard to kind of backtrack out of that. If anyone can do it, it's Tennessee with the lineup that they have. But I think that's where A&M can get to Tennessee, especially in game one. And then if they can get to Drew Beam early, I don't know if they're going to. Drew Beam has electric stuff. We've seen it. He's the best pitching. He's pitching the best he is, I think, right now in this entire season, and the confidence is there. But I think getting to the starting pitching early, because I think A&M's bullpen's a little bit better than Tennessee's throughout the whole bullpen. Just statistically, from what I've seen, I think Kirby Connell is an unbelievable pitcher and just so deceptive as a lefty, and just the stuff he has is electric. But when you have a Chris Cortez in the bullpen and Evan Oschenbeck, that can go 4 innings basically out of the game, I think getting to Tennessee's starting pitching early and getting the bullpen and getting those arms early in the series is going to be crucial. Now, on the other side, I think it's going to be, you can go several different routes with this. So I guess that's kind of both ways. I guess I explained it for A&M getting to Tennessee's starting pitching, getting the bullpen. But for Tennessee to get to A&M, I think it's going to be just constantly applying pressure and not leaving runners on. Like not leaving runners on in scoring positions, getting those, because they're a power team. It's going to be knocking those singles, getting that guy in from second, getting the guy in from third. I think it's going to be not leaving runners on base, which they do a really good job at it, but also it's kind of backfired at times. So I think to get to A&M, you can't leave runners on base, and you can't have Cortez come in with runners on and get out of the situation, slam the door, which their bullpen seems to do all year long, especially here at the College World Series.
And I think you make a great point too, Haberson, why it's so key because we've seen Tennessee come back from a deficit, but with all due respect to Florida State, their bullpen, their staff, which they're a great team. That's why they were there. Oschenbeck and Cortez are different. That's just you're not. It's not a good recipe for success to get to the 6th or 7th inning and be trailing by 3 or 4 runs. Most times, more often than not, they're going to shut the door. So if you're Tennessee, to your point, I like that. I think you've got to jump out early, or at least keep things at bay. Keep it within a run game, maybe 2. But if you fall behind like you did in that game 1, I don't know that you'll be so fortunate to be able to climb out of that.
And I'll give you an example because we saw it against Florida when I think Josh Stewart was in for A&M on the mound. It was like a 2-2 count. I can't remember who was batting for Florida, but he was a really good at bat. Fouls a fastball straight back. I'm like, he's on this fastball. And Sloss runs out there after Max Wiener went out for a mound visit earlier in the inning. Sloss goes out there, makes a change in the meeting. 2-2 count. He goes to or it was Chris Cortez, excuse me. And he goes straight to Oschenbeck. Chris didn't have his best stuff. It wasn't his sharpest stuff, right? Goes to Oschenbeck. We talked to Max Wiener after. He said, no, it just, what was the thought process of that? He goes, we just felt really good in that situation, wanted to go to our guy and slam the door. And like he was our guy. He's done it all year. He goes in a 2-2 count. You're seeing a new guy with 1 strike to give, with the stuff that Oschenbeck has with runners on. That's really tough. And it was a great at bat. It was like 4 more pitches in that bat. And then Oschenbeck slams the door. Huge, huge spot there. Momentum swing even further for A&M. And that's kind of what I was thinking about in my example of how Tennessee can't leave runners on. They can't have that situation happen and let A&M slam the door.
Haberson, moving to Texas A&M, you gave 2 for Tennessee, so I'm going to give 2 for Texas A&M here. We're having fun. Why not? I'm going to start my first key for Texas A&M. The starting pitching must be special. I know that's a no-brainer. I know that's obvious, but this is a series, Haberson. I think the longer it goes on, the more it favors Tennessee. If this goes to a game 3, I think Tennessee They're in a much better position on the mound because of injuries to Texas A&M. I love what I just saw from Xander Sechrist, the lefty from Tennessee. Like, I think they're in a really good position, much better on the mound. So I think the starting pitching for Texas A&M, most likely, if they're going to win this series, I think it's got to be game 1, game 2, Prager, Lampkin. They got to be special. Bottom line. I mean, this is the time of year guys step up. Legends are born. You make a name for yourself. You write your story. I think those two guys need to be elite. My second key, pass the baton offensively. I don't think it's going to be one guy that we're going to be talking about 3-game series. He had 8 of the RBI, and he was just the dude. Even a player like Jace Lavalette, he's capable, but is he 100%? I think we can all agree he's not. I think if you're Texas A&M offensively, just keep passing the baton, whether it's a productive out or it's a single or it's a bunt for a hit, like whatever it is. You cannot try to out Tennessee. You are not going to outslug them. You're probably not going to out home run them. You're not going to outdo them, but you can still beat them and do enough offensively if you keep passing the baton. Again, these names that we mentioned, Harrison, these are not household names to anybody other than Aggie fans, like Caden Sorrell, Ami Camarillo, Caden Kent, Travis Chestnut, even Jackson Appel, as good as he is, and I know that he's been really cold of late, but talking to those folks over there in Aggie land, they love his game, and he's been fantastic, the catcher from Penn. But it's those guys that need to continue to pass the baton, get your big boppers up there, give a guy like Gavin Grohovic a chance to maybe do some damage, but keep passing the baton. Do not try to out Tennessee offensively. I think you got a great chance for success. When you look at Texas A&M, keys to victory for the Aggies in this series.
Chris, it's more than just saying pass the baton. It's, as we talked with Brady Montgomery, it's good. We see the hat he's wearing. Good. When things are going good. Next man up, keep it going, keep it good. Things aren't going our way. Good. I was like, well, I said, why good? He said, let's get back on track. Let's do something good next. Let's keep getting good. Let's do good things. And it builds. I think it's good. They have to stick with that mindset. They've done it for quite a while now, and it's just simple. Keep it simple. Keep it good. That's the way.
Anytime you can tie the mantra into the key, I think that is a beautiful thing. So good on you, Harrison. Good on you. All right, it's time. Let's get into our predictions. We got to lock in a pick, Harrison. I know we love both of these teams, and they've both been very good to us in Omaha, but we're going to lock in a pick for this thing. College World Series Finals, the Tennessee Volunteers, the Texas A&M Aggies. Someone is going to win a national championship that has never done so before. Harrison, who's your pick? Tennessee or Texas A&M?
Chris, I don't think the past couple of years we've had a lot of game 3s. I know last year we didn't. Last year we did after a tight-knit game 1, a blowout in game 2, and then a blowout the other way in game 3. I think we definitely go to 3, Chris. It has that feeling with how deep both pitching staffs are, let alone the lineups. I think we definitely go to 3. And you talk about how you think Tennessee's their pitching staff and the starting rotation is a little bit deeper for Tennessee with Xander Sechrist. He's an unbelievable arm and a great number 3. I mean, most clubs would love to have him as a 2 or 1. I mean, just their pitching staff on starting is so deep. But with that being said, I'm riding with the Aggies. I got to ride with the Aggies. Just the bullpen is deeper. I think they're a little fresher. They have proven here in the postseason in Omaha, everyone that's come out of the pen's been a stud, been a superstar. And that's a quote, superstar. And just how good they've been in the offense, just finding a way. It's not a big, loud power, bats that Tennessee has hitting home run. The defense has been there. Yes, Jace Lavallette's not 100%. I think he's going to be good enough. I got to ride the Texas A&M Aggies in game 3. And that stays with my pick from when we had our postseason picks. We did our brackets. I had A&M beating Texas. Sorry, I had Texas A&M beating Tennessee in the finals to go to the postseason. I'm sticking with it here. Sticking with them.
So you had this I forgot about that. You had the exact finals called. I respect that. Riding with the pick. That's a great pick. I agree with you first off, Harrison. This thing's going to 3 games. I do not see either side.
Good thing my flight's on Tuesday, Chris.
Yeah. I think it's set up well, man. I think both of these teams, again, 2 of the most complete teams in college baseball. I think the only reason Tennessee wasn't getting, like we mentioned, more love going into, really all throughout the postseason, but certainly as the Omaha 8 was set and it began, the only reason they weren't getting more love is because the whole 1 seed curse thing. And I get it, right? It's been 25 years. There's enough data there to show us, for some reason, number 1 seed didn't win at all. But if you'd have put a 2 seed next to their name, a lot of folks would have been jumping on that bandwagon. This is going to be
my pick is no disrespect to Tennessee.
No.
They have all the ability to win it.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked whatsoever, but I'm with the Aggies.
Yeah. Got to make a pick, though. No disrespect at all. Got to make a pick. That being said, when I look at this series, Harrison, and I want to start and say this, if Braden Montgomery had been healthy I would have picked them from the jump to win the College World Series. I would have. I wanted to see what A&M looked like without Braden Montgomery. And they haven't been as good offensively, but they've still been really good, as they like to say. They have been good. They have passed the baton. They have scratched. They have clawed. They have found ways offensively. And, of course, by the way, when you get a guy like Ryan Prager throwing the way he did, Justin Lampkin, I mean, the way he stepped up has been the most underrated storyline for A&M in the postseason. And in the back end of the bullpen, like you have again, we talked Ashenbeck, Cortez. I mean, that's a great recipe. You've got all the pieces there.
They've got guys that ain't thrown yet.
Right. They play great defense too. I mean, they're pitching. I mean, both sides are going to be well rested, but they've got dudes on dudes in that bullpen and on that pitching staff. From the Tennessee perspective, I question in game 1. I'm not a huge fan of the opener thing, but talking to Tennessee folks, I get why they do it. It's worked for them all year, right? And I expect Stamos will be better, right? AJ calls he's going to follow. He likes to come out of the bullpen. It just, you don't mess with the mojo. Tony Vitello's very superstitious, and who knows, maybe he comes out, Causey will come out, he'll throw much better than he did against Florida State. I would expect he probably will, and it will work out well for them. I love what I saw from Drew Beam. And you mentioned Xander Sechrist as well. He could be a 2 or a 1 at a lot of places. Offensively, so I like the front-end starting pitching of Texas A&M more. I like Tennessee's lineup a lot more, too. Christian Moore, Blake Burke, Billy Amy. Dreiling is so underrated. Just pick your poison with them. Pick your poison. Very, very difficult to find 3 consecutive outs in that lineup. It's hard to find.
Tears, too.
Forrest Tears has been tearing it. It's hard to find 2 consecutive outs. Yeah, Tears has been tearing it up. Hunter Inslee's been incredible. They're playing great defense. So now I got to make a pick. When you look at this series, Harrison, like I mentioned, I think if A&M's going to win it, I think they need to do it in 2 games. I think it's going to go to 3 games. And I think Tennessee – how about this? I think Texas A&M's going to win game 1. And I think Tennessee turns around. I think they win 2 games in a row. I think they they outlast them. I think they're going to have enough to outslug them at some point. And I think
the curse is broken.
I think the curse will be broken. I think the Tennessee Volunteers, Tony Vitello, Harrison, we've been talking forever. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if Tony Vitello reaches the pinnacle in college baseball. I think he will do it with this group. I think this group is special. I don't even know if they're as talented as the 2022 group, but they've just got that it factor. And I think too, Everson, I'm going to say this. I'm not building in an excuse for Texas A&M, but I think a banged up A&M, Jay Slavilet's not 100%. There's no Braden Montgomery. There's other injuries that we are not as well aware of that, talking to Aggie folks, they will acknowledge. There's other guys that are banged up that are just fighting through it. I think that limits A&M a little bit. I think we're getting a really, really good version of A&M. I don't think it's the best version. Obviously, Braden Montgomery is not playing. So I think because of that, Tennessee will take advantage. I think it's going to be a great series. It's going to be a classic. And I think A&M wins game 1. I do. Tennessee will battle back. Tennessee takes 2 or 3. They win it all. So I'm riding with the balls.
A split house here.
As it should. You know what? As it should be with a series like this. And Harrison, I honestly commend you. I commend both of us because I think we're much more – I'm seeing a lot of people out there right now that are like, this is a no-brainer. Tennessee, they're going to dominate. You come here, folks, you're going to get both sides. And I'm telling you, this is going – and Harrison will acknowledge as well. This is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight for 3 games. This is no blowout. This is no – these are 2 high-quality teams, even with A&M being a little bit shorthanded. I think for folks that are looking at this, Harrison, is, oh, this is just a kick-in. Tennessee is worlds better. Tennessee's very good, but A&M's also very good. So it's going to be a classic. Won't surprise me either way, but I'm going to roll with Tennessee, and you're going to roll with Texas A&M. So we'll see. We'll see who comes out on top.
Rocky Top and Gig'em, something's got to give, Chris. Something's got to give. Hey, but we do know one thing that we will be right about, and that is that a team, Tennessee or A&M, will win their first ever national championship in college baseball.
And the other thing we're right about, we do know for a fact, Harrison, it's not per sources, you will be boots on the ground. SEC Unfiltered is still at the College World Series, will be at the College World Series final. Be sure you follow Harrison at Fantavious9, right?
On Twitter. That's
yes.
it.
And we're reposting all of this, by the way. Follow SEC Unfiltered, all your College World Series coverage, guys. It's been electric following throughout the event, being there, boots on the ground. Again, we'll have like a full recap and breakdown, both the baseball and our personal experiences in Omaha next week. But looking forward to a great series. Harrison, any closing thoughts, any final remarks as we look ahead to this weekend, Tennessee and Texas A&M?
Chris, it's been an unbelievable experience here at the College World Series. It was great to spend some of it with you here. Next year, the content, the planning, the execution is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be an unbelievable experience. Coming back, for our second time and knowing the ropes, a lot of food. We'll have way more food reviews next year, too. We've got to post a couple more for sure this year. But the game of college baseball is growing, Chris. And the regionals, the super regionals, College World Series, the views are up, record numbers. Millions and millions of people are watching college baseball. We've said it all year, Chris, but there's no better time to watch college baseball than now. If you aren't, you better start watching college baseball because the game is unbelievable. It delivers all the time, and we're about to get it on the college baseball's biggest stage, the national championship. So tune in.
In the most hallowed ground in college baseball, Gig 'em, Rocky Top, the battle for the ultimate prize taking place this weekend. Guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications. Check us out via podcast wherever you get podcasts. You can also find us, of course, like I mentioned, across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And be sure you're following all over because, again, we're boots on the ground covering, giving you everything you need to know. College World Series as Tennessee and Texas A&M do battle. Guys, for Harrison Fant, I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.